I'm having a moment where I'm questioning my own belief systems on a lot of things. If this is a lesson I want people to learn, is this also a lesson that I want to teach myself? Am I making a game to teach myself a lesson? The fuck? Wait a minute. Hold on. That doesn't... How can I do that? I don't know if I can. How can I do that?
Hello everyone. Hopefully you're having a wonderful day so far. Today in game development. As much as I would like to tell you that we went really far and we figured out all of our problems, it's mostly about a more fundamental question on how the experience of the game was questioned today, including at the end of a road that cannot be changed, what does it matter what you do if nothing you do changes the outcome? And it's just more or less a question of how do we teach the answer to that question through our gameplay. So a little more philosophical this time around, a little more sullen this time around, and a lot of me racking my brain and talking with y'all to try to get an answer to this fundamental question. And I think overall we came to a good conclusion. So if that sounds like up your alley, then I think you're gonna like this segment. So sit back, relax, get some drinks and some snacks, and I'll see y'all in a second. Hello everybody. How are y'all doing today? Hopefully well. Hey Star, hey Silly, hey Dark, hey Scallion. Why are you gonna implode, Scallion? What's going on? How y'all doing? Hopefully well. Chicken fingers? Are you eating chicken fingers? Like, okay, alright. Not much. How you doing, Dark? It is game dev day, so I need to dress accordingly in my game dev attire. No, I'm sorry. At least Dino Nuggies? At least Dino, maybe, perhaps. Hey Dragon, how you doing? I remembered to put that we were actually live in Discord. It's the little things, you know. Maybe one day I'll be a professional streamer. Oh, the ghost song. Oh yeah, I remember. I saw you counting them down. Good. I'm glad it's as good as you thought it was, or what you anticipated it being. I will say I was a big fan of their like art, like very Eldritchian, and I dig it. I bet because I just got out. I wouldn't get any partners for PE. I got none, and it was a group of 4. No. You just carried the team yourself. 3 days into full album. Hell yeah, Scallion. That's awesome. I'm really happy for you. I'm really excited for you. I hope the whole album is just a banger after a banger. For your hype train's sake. Look over being useless. I'm sorry, silly. I'm sorry you had to go through that. It's school can be rough. School can be rough, and especially PE. So I definitely experienced similar stuff in the past too. But no, it will pass. And you know, we're just getting through each day. But I'm glad you're here. At the very least, whatever that's worth for you. But I'm still sorry you're going through it. Considering that there were the 3 we have are peak as hell. Pool room Minecraft mod? Is that the one where it's like a giant, like, it was like Backrooms-esque? Pool room Roblox. Let's see here. Yeah! Like, yeah, Backrooms pool room level. Gosh, the Backrooms exploded. I was here for it, man. Went to the local card shop and got a bunch of stuff. The clerks were nice enough to give us free coins and dice because no one wanted them. That's awesome! What card packs did you get? What are we talking? Are we talking Pokemon? Are we talking Digimon? Are we talking Magic? Are we talking... Is Duel Master still a thing? It was a thing at one point. Oh, man. But, local card shops, listen, I love local card shops. But, I can't afford it. I can't afford going there often. Because it's kind of like, there's a reason why I don't go to adoption shelters. I'm not leaving that area empty-handed. It's not gonna happen. I don't got the self-control necessary to go to a location and not get something. So, all the power to you. So it says, I'm hungry, my stomach is killing me. Yes, go eat. Go get some food. I will be here when you get back. At least within, as long as it's within the next 4 hours. But yeah. But yeah. No. Are you... Yeah, no. Dark has their own, like, duck army Discord. It's pretty cool. But, yeah. I apologize if I'm a little out of it. I'm a bit tired. But, we're gonna do what we can for, you know, game dev and all that other kind of stuff. I feel like there was a couple things that I wanted to talk about, but I just can't for the life of me remember. I just finished eating. Gosh, I just love me some chicken and green beans. It's like my favorite meal. So I just finished that. Hopefully y'all, well, Silly's going to eat, so they're going that. But how about the rest of you? What have you eaten today? What is going on in y'all's lives? Well, I mean, Scallion was talking about the music that they're looking forward to, which is, I imagine, is like when you're that excited and that hyped for something, it's not unusual if you just don't eat. You're just like, I'm too excited to eat. Hey, Softburger, how are you doing? Gatorade is mixing the blue and red flavors. That's you sound like what's the word I'm looking for? What is the official name for a potion maker? An alchemist. Gatorade's mixing the blue and red flavors. It's like, yes, this is all coming together. Hey, Ratty, how you doing? Hopefully well. Thanks for stopping on by. Today we're working on some... It's sacrilege. Are you a Gatorade? You should not be talking about mixing drinks, sir. I know of the concoction. I know of the sins you have committed. Of the mixing of all things. Don't get me wrong, I abide by a similar philosophy. Whenever I go get slushies or drinks, the more they are mixed, the more delicious they become. It is a terrible price. Does anyone else do that when they go to like a movie? Granted, I don't know how often people go to movie theaters nowadays, but whenever I go to the movie theaters and I do get a slushie, even if it costs like $15, I'm like, add as many of those flavors as possible. Every single one. Maybe like not the stronger ones. So if they have like blue raspberry and watermelon and cherry and Coke and all that other kind of stuff, I might make it all but like not the Coke. You maybe go on the treadmill. Good. Yes, good. exercise, because you know I'm gonna be exercising. Every break. Well, not every break. It's going to reach a point, because we increase it every month, that I will have to exercise every break instead of every other break. Just because I can't do it fast enough. Or what we'll probably have to do is I might have to invest. Well, actually, I own resistance bands. Maybe we'll need to switch to like a resistance band style, where it's like, okay, cool, the number goes back down to base, but we now add like 5 pounds of resistance or 10 pounds of resistance, etc. on all the things that we do, and then go through that way until we get to a point where like the toughest band, and we're like, well, what do we do now? But I'll figure it out. That I have to exercise for a minute, but it costs 500. 500. Oh, so it's like, oh. But what would the exercise for a minute? What exercise? And is it just constantly for a minute? So like for 60 seconds, I have to be doing something. Because I do have exercise bit redeems that I did, where if it was like, if you donate, I think it was like 166, then 566, then 1066, or 69. No, I ended it with 69. Where, as you made it, where every increment gives an entire set of all three. So I did do that. I remember posting that in the Discord as something that I added a while back. But yeah, that is something. If you really want it to hurt, it will cost you money. Otherwise, you're just adding pieces to it, which is fine. All it's gonna do is make me stronger, more powerful than you could possibly imagine. Alright. Man. Maybe I need caffeine. I never played Oblivion. Are you? Are you getting the Oblivion remake? Actually, scratch that. I might have played a little bit of it, but I never played enough of it where it was memorable. Okay. Did you really, really like the original Oblivion? Because I saw the announcement. I saw y'all talking about it in the Discord and stuff too. Oblivion, like, you're in my boat? Got you. Okay. All right. I mean, I would have to really check it out. I think RPGs, they just don't get their hooks in me like they used to. Like Final Fantasy 14 with like all y'all were really the biggest RPG hook that I've received. Like I've had other ones but they're more like single player, like Witcher or something like that. But like Dragon Age, I was never huge on. Oblivion, I never played Skyrim. I have never played Skyrim, not even once. And so like a lot of those kind of styled games, it's just, it was as I was growing up, when Skyrim was like big, I was in like school. And I knew that I couldn't do school and Skyrim at the same time, so I chose school. Until the class changes. Granted, at this point, I would have so much catching up to do, I would not be bored. Just the crafting classes alone, let alone the actual story. But like, so I've never really played Borderlands. I've never played Skyrim. So there's a lot of games that I've never dove into that a lot of other people have, simply because like the timing couldn't have been worse. And then by the time I could do it, like the ship kind of sailed and it just didn't grab me. And I also have a tendency to like gravitate towards like 1 or 2 or 3 games for a really long time versus like a bunch of different games for a shorter amount of time. So like Final Fantasy 14 was a good example. Like we went pretty hard, and I went pretty hard in that like for a while, and then I stopped. And then I was super hard into Destiny until I stopped. And then I got super hard into Satisfactory or Binding of Isaac. So like instead of having hundreds, or maybe not, like yeah. So instead of having like, no, I wouldn't even say hundreds, but like tens of different games where you put in like 20, 30, 40 hours into, I have like 5 or 6 games that I have hundreds, if not thousands of hours into, right? It's hyper focused into like a handful of games versus spread out with a lot of different experiences. And so those are the kind of games that I like. The ones that I could really just be like, cool, I'm going to obsess with this for the next like 3 years. And I've tried it with like certain games like PoE, which I always call Prison of Elders, thanks Destiny. Path of Exile. It didn't click in the same way. I tried Warframe. Same deal. It's just didn't necessarily click. It was fine. It was a good game, but it just didn't grab me. Once Human almost did. Once Human was really fun, and I got really into it for like 3 or 4 days. Like I think I streamed it like a good 20 plus hours in a couple days, and then I also streamed, or I also played it off stream too. Like I was really into it, but I just kind of fell off of it. And because I really liked the aesthetic of it, I think there was just probably something about like the actual growth of it and the leveling system of it that just didn't quite rub me the right way, and that it lost traction, or I lost the grip of it. I am not planning on streaming it. How much is the Oblivion one anyway? Because I just don't have the cash money right now to spend on a big game. $50? Yeah. No. It's unfortunate, but I don't. It would be a fresh experience. Oblivion, no idea what I'm doing. And is Oblivion the kind of game where I would play it once a week for y'all on stream, and it would still be interesting only playing once a week for like a handful of months? I don't know. I feel like, especially RPGs in general, there's such a race. And like, as far as a content creating perspective, RPGs are a gold mine. They're really good. As far as being like, oh, I could put out for builds, I could put out for guides, I could put up like all this other kind of stuff. What would an Oblivion Mamadoto look like? I have no frame of reference of what Oblivion even is. I know it's an RPG, but like the world of Oblivion, I have no clue. But like that kind of game, Diedrich Mamadoto Prince. I'm gonna just Google what the heck. Should I be upset? What does that even mean? Oblivion. Diedrich Princes. No. Continue to the site. No, stop it. I don't even know what this is. I mean, it's cool armor, but like, I have no idea. What does it even mean? Demon? No, that's sanguine. That's like a blood thing? Demons? Okay. Alright, so a demon prince. Oh, I could see Mamadoro rocking that. But like, so so there's, oh, Oblivion is like hell. Is it like hell on earth kind of deal, where it's like, oh, it's an RPG where everything goes bad and you have to save the world from hell? At that point, would that be like Diablo? I think it's more Skyrim than Diablo, if I'm understanding it correctly, but welcome. A train tunnel is not a good place to watch the stream. That's true. I don't think I get good reception in tunnels. I haven't tried it, but, you know, maybe. But basically what I'm saying is that though it's a good, RPGs are such a good thing to get into, it is such a competitive space, and it's such a space of like, you need to be the first one to do it. You need to be the first guides out there. You need to be the first, like, stuff to put out there. And that's not my style. My style is not I'm putting this the first thing in front of y'all, where it's like, cool, this game came out today and I spent like 12 hours getting specific parts, and then I'm getting guides and things ready for y'all. Like, that's just not my style. All right, thank you, Star Beast. You have a good one. Enjoy. If you're getting Oblivion, I hope you have fun with it. Let me know how you like it. All right. If I hear enough positive reception, I will consider it. But as far as right now, it just doesn't seem like one of those games where it feels like I would have to already be a fan of Oblivion to be able to enjoy what's happening today. Right? And since I'm not, I'm just kind of like, well, I guess we'll wait and see. Well, apparently London tunnels have reception. Is there something special about London tunnels? Did we remove the Mama Dote amnesia? Yeah. Yeah. There's no corruption anymore. So I got a splint in my side and it hurts. It hurts. You know what I'm talking about? The splint where it's like, it feels like there's like a cramp underneath your ribs. Ugh. I didn't even do anything. What did I even do? But yeah, you are free to say egg without like Mama Dodo spamming chat. That was a one-day thing, but I did add the costumes of what I've made recently. Had a weird sharp pain the other day. I'm sorry to hear that, Soft Burger. Where was it, if you don't mind me asking? Right in the intestine. Oh, a gut punch. The gut punch of nature. Yeah. Well, did it go away, hopefully? Was it maybe like you needed fiber? That's my go-to. Whenever there's like intestinal weirdness, I'm like, I probably didn't have enough fiber today. How do I get rid of splints in the side? Oh gosh, might have been something catching in my hair. Yeah, especially if you can't recreate it. Yeah, the catching of the hair ones is so real. That happens to me all the time. I'm just like, oh, what is this sharp pain? And then I look down, and then it's just like this taut hair caught on jeans or something, and I'm just like, oh, that explains it. Mod, where to find it? Let's see here. I don't see your message anywhere, Star. Yeah, no, I don't see your message. Weird. Unless you put it in the Discord, which, no, I didn't. I'm not looking at the Discord currently. Ooh, okay. So, let us think about this then. Because today, what we're going to be doing... Oh, it's by Doctor. Yes, I did see the Doctor 4. I did see that. Roblox, pool room, back room style. Love to see it. Actually, speaking of significantly off of back rooms, but I associate back rooms similar to what do they call it? Vintage horror? That's not the word. Analog horror. Analog horror. Oh, on YouTube, Doctor 4. Oh, that's what you meant. Okay, let's see here. YouTube, Doctor Oh, it's Minecraft? Oh. Gotcha. Okay. I might check it out. Especially if it's still interesting. Yeah, we'll see about it, Dark. You've now challenged the community, so we'll see. That is not my decision. But, let's see. Last calls hub. There we go. So the last thing that we did, let's kind of summarize what we're planning on doing today. So today, we'll be sure of it. Hell yeah, Dragon. Dragon's got your back, Dart. What we're going to be doing today is we're going to be finishing up the demo as far as just kind of getting the details out, just really ironing out everything that we want to go about with it. If I feel up to it, we might go down the direction of making the actual map for it. Because what I would like to do is, as we move forward with the main game and developing the main game, we just also apply it to the demo. So that way, there isn't a lot of situations where it's like, oh, we finished the main game, now it's time to do the demo, and we kind of add the... What's a good way of putting it? It's kind of like properly grouping. I would rather make sure that everything is going smoothly both in the main game and the demo when we're already working on that particular thing. So if we're working on, say, hold on here, like the spread, and let me switch to display here so you can see. So with the spread, for example, and I'm like, okay, cool, I want to make sure this is hopping correctly. I would also want this to be effective and to see how it could work in that demo instead of finishing this and then going to the demo, or going to the demo and then transferring, then doing the main game, right? You have chosen your knights. Excuse me. Sorry. It is spring after all. I will be sneezing. And unfortunately, I have been cursed with dad sneezes. But, you're not one, but I... Well, Star Beast, I think, is already gone, which is funny. Silly, I think, went to go eat, which is also amusing. So I guess, Dragon, you'll have to show your loyalty. But I've had dad sneezes for a while now. Like, also, did you know, Tempted to Rebel? That's true. You were not shown. You were not recognized for your efforts. So rebellion is on the tip of your tongue. Should you play the game with friends? By the way, I'm talking about the Minecraft mod. I mean, Minecraft is just amazing. It's good. It's good. Quickly, Rowlet or Litten? I say Rowlet. I say Rowlet. They're good, solid choices, though. You could go either way, but that's my vote. There you go. I'm very good at helping people make decisions. I struggle with it personally, but it is a consequence of growing up with people who are incapable of making decisions. I mean, I figured. So, like, I still have a friend who calls me for me to tell them what they're going to eat for lunch because they can't make a decision on what to eat or what to wear, and I am the decision maker in that. But it's good to always have a friend like that to help you, being like, okay, cool, this is where you're gonna go. Have a good time. Like, those conversations are like 2-minute stops. And it's usually followed with, like, what was the last time you had Mexican food? A couple weeks? You want Mexican food. All right, have a good one. But anyway, my what was I saying? It was sneezing. Sneezing is learned. I don't know if y'all knew that. Sneezing is a learned behavior. Well, at least not sneezing in of itself is a learned behavior, but the way you sneeze is a learned behavior. And they know that because they compare how people sneeze depending on people who were born deaf or people who became deaf later in life, and then compared how they sneezed. And it turned out that people who were born deaf don't make noise when they sneeze. They don't make any kind of they sneeze to a degree, but they don't really have any specific behaviors aligned with it. Whereas people who became deaf later sneezed a particular way in which they were shaped by their environment, right? I wish I knew how to unlearn it. Slotted a catchphrase? That's hilarious. What would be your catchphrase, Softburger? What would your catchphrase be? If you could have a catchphrase that you would sneeze out, what would it be? Gosh, I think it would just be a curse word. I think it would be like F off or something. Like, oh, sorry, my apologies. I'm sneezing. I say meh when you sneeze. I just get really loud. It's just classic dad sneezes. Yeah. And yours would just be yeah? Like Y-E, yeah? Or you're welcome? Wait, what would YW mean? That's so funny. Oh gosh, you sneeze saying you're welcome, and they're like, wait, what? What if I sneeze saying thank you? Like, the normal response you would give for people saying bless you, you would preemptively thank them. You also hold in my sneezes? See, I don't. But I also grew up in a where my dad shook the floor when he sneezed. Like, you could hear him on a different floor behind locked doors sneezing. So I didn't have a chance in hell for my sneezes. My sneezes also just hurt. I have a recovery period with my sneezes. I sneeze and then I'm just like, everything has to like reconnect. Seems that an actual achoo once never happened again because you refused to? I don't know. Alright, anyway. Well, enjoy your lurking dragon. I should probably... It simply just won't happen. I mean, everyone sneezes differently. Y'all enjoying the lurk. Okay. So. Okay. Focus, idealist. Focus. You're very scatterbrained today. It's true. I am very scatterbrained today. I don't know what it is. I don't know what about today in general it is, but I can't seem to focus. It could be food. It could be... I didn't sleep that well. Maybe that's why. I need to change the sheets on my bed. Is anyone else like that? Probably not, because you're functioning human beings. But, like, I don't change the sheets on my bed often. Don't get me wrong, I take a shower. I take a shower before bed. And I do my best to keep the apartment cold enough where I'm not sweating through it, which, by the way, anything above like 72 degrees, I'm gonna sweat through a bed. But then again, I think my thermostat's broken because I've been to other places that are lower than or higher than 72 and it did not feel it. Anyway. But for me, I change the sheets when I don't sleep well. I can tell that I'm having difficulty sleeping. and then I do it. My day's doing all right. I mean, I'm talking about it, but I don't think I slept well, so I'm a little scatterbrained today, and I apologize for that. But we're gonna keep on doing our best. We might not be a functional day, but maybe it would still, you know, we might come up with some good ideas overall. I know last time we came up with a really good idea. And I think it was from your suggestion, Star, if I recall correctly. It was the recordings. It was the idea of each of these people that you can get to the end, or as a reward for doing certain challenges, we have a last call recording. And we've also, and that kind of challenged our perspective of what we want the definition of last call to mean. Because in the beginning of this game, in the beginning of making this game, last call was in reference to at the end of the game when everyone is gone, the phone rings one last time. And I loved that like mystery. I loved that feeling, that kind of like emptiness and hope and all that other kind of like conflicting emotions that I think makes like a really good ending, especially in a horror sense. But with the idea of the game beginning with a phone call, it begins with a voice message. And the voice message of that call being from the main character calling their loved one as they make their last call. And then it cuts off. And I mean, if you want to talk backwards, that's fine. I can still understand you. So it's not bad. However you want to go about it. But like the last call, to like have that be the first thing that you come across, it kind of like, it spells what people are going to get into. Because this is I don't want to say it's a harsh game, because that's not necessarily, we don't want to paint it all harsh, right? Because then people get them. Like, no one wants to play a game where they just feel bad about it the whole time. There needs to be some levity. But to like start the game to a phone call that is somebody's last call, and to have it get cut short and then the game starts, it's a little bit where so there's a particular tool for narrative where a lot of books do this. A lot of stories don't do this well, but there's a lot that do well, where what you do is that you start the story at a high point. You start a story at like you begin with the hook, because if you begin the story with like the slow build up and you learn everything, and then you slowly build up to, you know, a height, it's hard to keep people reading because there's no hook in the beginning. So a lot of good, not an ill intent. Are you having a no, he's writing backwards. That's X Star for you. Listen, you'll get it. He does that. All right, that's just an X Star thing he does. But he, or not he. What was I saying? Damn, what was I saying? Oh, narrative hooks. I mean, it's the same as can be true with like short form content and stuff like that too. You need to start strong to keep people interested and invested. So a horror game about the slow build up is like people know that those tend to have slow build-ups, but beginning it with that phone call, and especially cutting it short, gives a feeling of like you're solving a mystery a bit. You're trying to figure out what that call was about, and that was a deeply personal thing, and it kind of like hits you with like a freight train. And this game is going to have narrative beats, because we talked about like a handful of narrative beats, right? And if we look at some scripts, right? Hold on, let me go switch this to black and white by changing the damn background to a black background. And oh gosh, Excel, if you can hear me out into the ether, out into the internet, I need you to please, of anything else, please add a dark mode to Excel that doesn't involve me putting a black background with white lettering manually. It sucks every time, because they're quote unquote, because my Excel is in dark mode, and you know what that is? That's just turning this top part dark. That's it. Nothing else. This giant white Excel block is still exactly that. So please, that, or somebody teach me how to do it that isn't just manually doing it. It sucks every time. Anyway, but we have like a handful of narratives, right? We have Man in the Street and Not, let's see, no, those were the ones. The kid sees dad kills mom, that a kid calls 911 saying that his dad killed his mom, not realizing that the mom in this case was not an imposter, a mimic that killed her previously and tried to trick the family into going there, and the dad opened fire, right? So like little things like that. And then we have the ice cream truck scene where you have this ominous ice cream music happening in the background as a mimic ambushes the policeman. And then a teenager losing their younger brother in an industrial complex. You have like a lot of these very heavy conversations that are going to be happening, and a lot of heavy implications that are going to be happening, because this is about a small town and a small group of people that are just trying to get through the night. They just want to live. They just want to help. They just want to keep their family safe, and they don't really know what's going on. And so you're gonna have a lot of those kind of moments where it feels real, and I want that feeling. I want the feeling of like these feel like people, and it really feels like you're trying to help them, and no matter what you do, you can't stop them. And there's a certain level of helplessness, and we also have to tread that line carefully. I mean, I understand you fine, Star. But the reason we have to tread it carefully is because there's a fine line of having a dark, intense moment that you're sharing narratively for just the sake of it being dark and sad versus an actual lesson, right? Because a lot of stories that kind of akin to that have like a positive ending. They make it through in the end. They learn something, they get an advantage in some way, they get help in some way. Like the game ends with you being the last one alive and you have failed. There is no positive part of that. So there needs to be a specific lesson, and I, as somebody who is driving the narrative forward, need to make sure that I have a reason. a lesson. And there is one. The lesson is that there are some things not in your control. That no matter what, no matter how hard you fight it, no matter what decisions that you have chosen correctly, no matter how the quote-unquote right thing that you've done, there are some moments in life where that does not matter. It's still going to happen, and it's not within your control. And then there are parts in life, this is an incredibly frustrating game, and that's what I want to avoid. I don't want to make a game that's frustrating. I want a game that helps people realize the limit of their own effort and to learn to be okay of not being in control, in that there are things that are outside of one's own effort, and to understand that there isn't fault in that, and to not blame yourself in that. And to learn that there isn't a every FNAF. When there's a new FNAF game, I'll go through every FNAF game. Well, maybe not every one of them, but most of them. But the lesson is to know that the effort, but it's not like a roguelike, right? They'll just lose. It is kind of like a roguelite in the sense that every run, it spreads a little differently, and the characters behave differently, and different people get to the end, so there are different stories that arise. So every gameplay, you learn something new about the different people that live there, right? So yeah, it's not, you gain something with between each one, and it is designed for you to, you always lose, but you lose at different speeds. Like, the point of the game is to last as long as possible. It's not about getting through the night. It's about lasting as long as you could possibly push against something that you have no means or ways to possibly defeat. And to learn that there is worth in effort of fighting against the impossible, even if it means that you don't win. There is worth in that. There is worth in effort, even if it means that you don't get the what you want to go to. And there are lessons in that effort. But I think that's the lesson I want to imbue in the people who play in the game. And I think the telling of a good storyteller, a good writer, or a narrative designer, or whatever, is how well they're able to imbue that lesson, or that what they want people to get from that experience, and people actually getting that. And I think that's going to be the most difficult part of this. Is, I mean, like as you said, Softburger, like, this could be an exceptionally frustrating game if it's not done properly. We need to make the game so that this is not an experience people are going to be used to having. Most games have a way through. You get that $100 check at the end of FNAF. You get to, like, the challenge is to get through a difficult time. And then the other side, you feel elated that you're able to make it through hard work and determination, and through insight and, growing of skills, and you just do it enough times and you get through it. This is not one of those. in the sense that you would still apply all that, and it would definitely extend the period of time accordingly, but there is no saving everyone. There is no saving anyone. But the challenge arises less of making it through and more of who do we want to save, at least to the very end. And can we keep them alive as long as possible? How do we keep them alive as long as possible? How do we beat death, but how do we prolong life? Like, there should be a tutorial level where I show you the mechanics. So basically the next day all that stuff happens. I gave that recommendation more thought the last time you mentioned it, Star, and I think you do have a point. I mean, there is a tutorial beginning in the sense of a quote unquote, they have you do like a onboarding practice program, which is essentially just that, where you have a tutorial part. It's not like you get thrown in and you don't get shown anything, right? But you have a very solid point in that there should be more of a line between the beginning and when the game actually starts, or like the tutorial and actually starts by like a second day. Because the more and more I thought about it, it's like, well, what would change if I did make it into 2 different days, right? What would change? Is like, how would I explain that narratively? Because narratively, these things followed the main character to this town and started to attack, right? But this also, if we make it 2 different days, we create an opportunity where now we can build up a little more. Instead of the game just being like, oh, it starts immediately or fairly immediately. Now it's like, she goes home and she like could tell that there's something going on. There's something happening. She's having, like, the dogs are freaking out. Like the slow buildup that a lot of horror has, you can now do of like, hey, something's wrong. Something's happening. And then, you know, they go to their job and everything is quote unquote fine. And then that's when it starts picking up, and then that's when they start attacking, right? Because at least from the way that these mimics behave, remember, they have stalking, ambushing, tricking, and then repeat. Like, that's their style. They stalk and observe, they ambush, kill, they trick others to come over to that location pretending to need help, and then ambush accordingly until finally, I guess the 4th repeat would just be new target chosen, right? But the way that we were painting it up to this point, I was going under the assumption that she's already been targeted. They don't need to observe her anymore, which is why they get to immediately start attacking. But maybe you have more of a point than I was originally putting it on, where the first day should just be, instead of even an onboarding thing, it was just like, oh, we'll only give you like a little bit of the calls so that you get used to everything, so that they drip feed you the calls, you familiarize yourself with all the little parts, and then you can kind of have a time to also bond with your coworkers in a way, because your coworkers is also something that like I would want the player to actually be invested in as well. So you have your coworkers that you can bond with more. You can get those calls that like have more of like a lore thing, right? Because we talked about red herrings and then how we were going to use red herrings as a way of, even though it sounds like it's taking up time in a negative way of like, oh, this is an emergency channel, why are you talking to me about what Stacy does with her ex-husband, right? Please get off the phone, I need to save lives. And we're dressing those up as lore bits that will then be tested upon in the hardest difficulty of these mimics as they try to trick you. And so the first day could be not only an introduction and learning how the mechanics work, but could also be, that's when you get most of your background information. That's when you are supposed to be paying the most attention to what they are saying, because the stakes are low. So if the stakes are low as far as consequences for getting things wrong, then the stakes of the narrative should be high, right? So, okay. Where would we put this? Let's see here. I guess we would probably put it... We'll probably make another tab, because apparently I don't got a none of it. We'll do... Where is it? Okay, instead of... we'll just copy recordings. And we'll put this as, like, tutorial. What? Where's the tutorial? Delete. Where are the tutorial? Oh, there it is. Dang it, man, really? Why? Why do I need to keep making it all dark? That's partly my fault. What I should have done is I should have just done it once and then just copied from what I did with that one. But you know what? Ode Idealist was stupid. There we go. So let's go down. Actually, let's remove no fill. I don't think I want this. You need an additional way of determining how to properly respond to imposter situations. That is something that we need to talk about. But ideas. So tutorial is actually the first day, and the main game happens the second day. So it's like we can now add a little bit to the build-up. We're able to give ourselves room to breathe. The sounds of music. Well, I should probably switch it around a little bit, but I really do enjoy it, and I don't get flagged on YouTube, so I just haven't invested into. But yeah, no, let me know if it ever gets annoying. All right, we got notified. So before we deep dive into this, we'll go into our first ad break. I'll do my first workout, and I'll see you on the other side. I am definitely off today. I could tell from my workout. I am weak at the moment. Hopefully I'm not getting sick, but we'll see. Sorry, 1 second. Catching my breath. Okay, I don't want to heavy breathe into the mic. So, if we're gonna let's explore what Let's actually do idea comparison. So let's look at tutorial. That is not how you spell tutorial. Tutorial in 2 days versus tutorial in 1 day. All right, and we're gonna compare. We're gonna compare these two. Why haven't you played the last game? You said you would play them if another game came out. A FNAF game came out? Yeah. When did new FNAF game came out? What game? What FNAF game came out? Since I said that. Was there another one? I know the demo of one of the things came out, and I played that a little bit. But it didn't fully come out. I only got like an hour of it or something like that. Let's see. It's actually the first day. Happens the second day. It was Into the Pit. Oh, the reason I couldn't. So the reason I didn't. It came out when I was on vacation. So I couldn't do it. I mean, granted, I guess I could have done build up into that game, but the timing, like after the fact, which I guess we could have done, but like I wasn't here to. It was just very poor timing. So I apologize for that, but it's just I wasn't able to make a thing of it because I wasn't here for it. So we're gonna have to wait to the next one. We'll see. And when I think of like FNAF, I think of like FNAF style, I guess. Like I don't think I would play what was the one where it's like first person, you're a kid and you're running around a theme park? I don't know if I would do that one. I'm thinking like OG FNAF. And if I had VR, I would do the VR one because I think the VR one has all the old ones in it except in VR. FNAF Mystery Dungeon? Do I want to know that one? That sounds questionable. So like, because I want to do with FNAF that I did with Poppy, right? Which is when a new game comes out, I go, instead of just jumping into the new game on day one, we build up to it, have like a whole week's worth of stuff and like fun stuff building up to it, and then we go into it, right? Like that's how I want to go about it. Is kind of use that as kind of like an excuse to like, oh, let's go jump into it, right? So I do want to, but I want to be given enough of an excuse to like do a whole big thing for it. You know what I mean? Plus, like at least right now, at least, Look Outside has me like a lot. So I'm definitely gonna be playing that game for the next like handful of weeks until we beat it. I think he wants to play FNAF World also. Play Snap. You have 100% every single game. Oh, Snap. Autocorrect. Well, I can see why they assumed you meant Snap or think Snap. You have 100% every single game. See, I don't know if I want to try 100%ing them all though. I want it, unless 100% is just getting to the end. If it's getting to the end, I'm fine with that. But if it's like also doing 2020 mode in every single game, or making it arbitrarily like really difficult for every single game, then maybe not so much, right? But if it's just getting to the end, or like trying to find the secrets, I like trying to find secrets, but I don't like it when it's just like, oh, you missed one, you gotta play this hour-and-a-half game all over again. Those are the things I don't really like to do, just because it's like frustrating. You know what I mean? Now, if I was one of those people who was just like, oh, people come to me to learn about these things, then I would put myself through that. but I'm not. And there are like hundreds of other people who do things much quicker and much more effective than me, where it's just like, even if I tried to do something similar to that, it wouldn't be sustainable, and I would either burn myself out or be outcompeted, or both, right? So that is a game that is on my radar. I just need an excuse, I guess, the long and short of it. So yeah, no, but I do enjoy FNAF, or at least I've enjoyed the content created around FNAF, if that makes any sense. It's hard to say you enjoy FNAF when you never played it, right? But I enjoyed watching Markiplier when he played it all. I enjoyed seeing other content creators really do a deep dive in like the lore of it all. Like, and I think it's really spurred the type of horror which is like childhood horror. 50-20. Oh yeah, you would want to play custom night 50-20 mode. Sure. But yeah, no, that's pretty much the beginning end of it, I think. All right, let's compare tutorial in 2 days versus tutorial in 1 day. Tutorial in 2 days allows us to put a focus on narrative information to be useful on difficulty for mimics. I figured Star. Tutorial in 1 day. Narrative to be mostly will be sprinkled throughout, but most in the beginning. So like the 2 day one is like, oh, we can now make it so it's really more heavily towards these red herrings. But if it's in 1 day, then it's kind of like a mix where you had a greater chance of undervaluing the information, I guess is a good way, right? So then what else would you be able to do? You would be able to build hear and interact with coworkers in a relatively stress-free environment, relatively. Whereas in the 1 day, it's hear and interact with coworkers as things start to get worse over time. You have to get every ending, then I'll be happy because this is my favorite series. Well, I guess it depends how tedious it would be, right? If it's one, like, because if we're going to be playing every single FNAF game over the span of what I assume is like 4 or 5 days, I cannot afford where it's just like, oh yeah, no, you can get every ending from this game, but it'll take you like 6 hours. And it's like, we have 2 games to play today. We do not have that kind of time, like that kind of thing. Granted, so we'll play it by ear. I want to play it as much as I can and get as many endings as I can. That I can give you my word on, Star. Is that when we play it, I'm going to try my best to get as much as I can. But I'm not going to say that I'm going to get every single possible thing, because it may not be in the cards, depending on what we plan on doing, you know? But I'll do my best. I appreciate your support, Star, but if I feel like I need your help, I will let you know. It could be something as simple as like, hey, if I'm about to miss a lore beat, don't let me miss it. It could be something as simple as that. Or I might have to look up guides beforehand to make sure that I don't miss anything, because those definitely exist too. So we'll see how we'll see when we get there, right? We still, as far as I'm aware, there isn't another FNAF thing that has been announced, except maybe the mystery dungeon thing that Softburger was talking about. Hey Binkley, how you doing? Just talking about pretty good. We're making a comparison as far as having the tutorial being a completely separate day in the game. Good, glad to hear it. But then we're getting sidetracked with FNAF discussions. There's a secret of the Mimic coming out? What are you talking about? There's a secret of the Mimic coming out? Like my Mimic? Or there's a FNAF Mimic? Because if there's a FNAF Mimic, I'm gonna sue them for IP. I'm just kidding. What are you talking about? Anyway. Okay. Anyway. So we can hear and interact with coworkers in a stress-free environment. We can hear and interact with the coworkers in a much more like natural setting as things get wrong. We have slow build-up of things being off in between days or during the first day. And then on the tour of the first day, no room for build-up. So that is one of the biggest things for a tutorial 2-day. Yeah, it's also a bad habit of mine in case it's not obvious. Some people are really bad though. I remember that there were classes that I took, and this was like not even in a speaking class. This was actually just in a science class, and teachers docked points if you said or or if you're trying to fill in with the space with a word, they'll dock your points on your grade. And luckily I didn't struggle too much with that. It's worse here because like I'm just talking on the fly. Like I need to have some level of filter from my brain to my mouth when I'm live streaming, and that filter when it stops tends to have the or when I'm trying to think deeply about something to process things well, it will kind of show up. How many recommend major FNAF fan? Can't fall asleep to every single Ari post video on a FNAF game. I mean, that's awesome. That's awesome for them. Everyone has their I wouldn't say obsession, but it's good to have people like that, especially in situations where they're able to voice and communicate and share their knowledge with everybody. So that's pretty cool. In between days or during the first day, no room for build up. What is a good other thing about this day of having it separate? Longer period to get used to the mechanics of the game. Not as much time to get used to mechanics before things start going off. Okay. So it looks like, at least so far, there seems to be only positives for separating it into 2 days. Narratively, need to explain why a whole extra day has been added. I'm gonna put in parentheses while we think about this, where they like, because it's not like they drive in from the other town and then they immediately start working, right? Because they definitely stayed the night. So it's just upon readying. That's not how you spell readying. Reading. How do you spell readying? Upon getting ready for going back to work, they come in to brush off. No. It would just, first day of work was easing us in, and the next day it will be like as if we never left. Whereas this one, it's after some rest of returning from the hospital, we return ready to get started. The narrative hook is a little stronger in the first one. And that he plays games and he gets every ending when no one has figured out any endings. That's pretty. He sounds very dedicated. Then what else? Is there any negatives to the 2-day problem? More difficult to pace with ease and with stress and ease when there's a whole new day between. With it being one day allows easier flow of stress and ease. So by stress and ease, by the way, I mean the push and pull of stress. So you can't be stress, horror, because you'll just get fried and then you won't feel anything. So what you want is that you want moments of stress and tenseness and all that other kind of stuff, and then you just kind of bring it back a little bit. Either the ease is anything from like comfort to safety to you getting things right to comedy, like things that kind of like add levity to the situation, that kind of opens the valve of the stress to go out of, right? Which, funnily enough, jump scares is a form of levity. It's what I would say, maybe cheap is too harsh of a word, but it is overly used. I will definitely say that much. Jump scares is too overly used as a form of levity for horror situations, and I think it's why most people, at least for the most part, who enjoy horror don't like jump scares, because it's kind of like a catch-all end-all kind of deal. It's similar to there's a bird call that is in every, I wouldn't say every, but in most horror movies and in horror games, there is a bird call noise, and it is used so often in situations that the bird shouldn't be there, that a lot of people are just like, oh, there's the call, there's the bird. Hold on, let me see if I can find it. See if I can find this bird call. Horror bird call trope. Yeah, loons. It was like horror loon call. Well, let's see if y'all can end up hearing it. Hopefully this won't be too loud. Okay, don't show me that. Yeah, you hear it? Do y'all hear it? Hold on. Yeah, I see it popping up. Really? Hold on. There you go. That's the loon. It's a lot of horror movies. Don't lie to me, Star. You can trick me as much as you want. Don't lie to me. Okay? Otherwise, I'm not going to trust you. Anyway. So stuff like that. Where it's just kind of like, I want to avoid tropes if possible. I want to have better kind of ease and stress ways to kind of make it so that people don't get fried through this game. Especially in the fact of the quote-unquote end of, like, well, it's not even quote-unquote. The end of the game isn't a source of levity. In most horror movies, at least in my opinion, maybe I'm wrong, is like there's some push and some pull and some stress, and then there's this it just goes up to a particular peak, and then it's the scariest, most everything's on the line moment, and then they beat the thing, and then everyone lets down their guard, and then at the very last moment there's an additional stress of like, it was never dead, or here's a sign of something else gonna happen, oh, there's gonna be something, like that kind of thing, right? But it ends with a levity, right? Happy Hills Homicide, I think that's what it's called. I think you recommended that previously. It sounds familiar. Feel free to check the Discord to see if I'm wrong, but it does sound familiar. But this game isn't really going to have that. You know? I mean, if the sequel just came out, hold on. Let's see here. All right, let's see. Happy Hills Homicide. Interesting. Why does it sound so familiar? Sequel? Oh, I have been seeing people play this game a couple weeks ago. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'll check out. I mean, it's cheap enough. I'll consider it. I'll consider it. Throw it in the game recommendations. Throw the sequel in the recommendations. And we'll see. But because our ending isn't really going to be levity, it's going to be, well, it is technically levity. It's just what's a good way to describe it? So levity, in at least the way that I am describing it, is a way of releasing stress. It's about building stress and then releasing stress, right? And by releasing the stress, we keep the person playing from becoming too used to it. It's creating a balance between these two things. If it's too levity, if it's the weight's too much on the levity side, it becomes boring. If it becomes too much on the stressful side, it will become very, very stressful, and or they will get used to the stress, and then it will become boring. Like it's very difficult to balance this accordingly. So levity isn't always about a positive emotion canceling out the negative emotion, depending on your perspective on what a positive and negative emotion is. So In particular, the more often uses I was going to use for levity was like comedy. It was going to be about winning. It was about accomplishments. So things of, oh, I was correct, I pushed them away. You quote unquote won. That is a way of releasing stress. You beat it. You beat them in this case, right? And you managed to get it correct, and there is that feeling of you accomplished something, which is a form of levity even on its own. And then you have comedy, like the cat lady. You have like those kind of moments where that are just kind of like a little more tongue-in-cheek, or a little more on the side of ridiculous, right? And that's still somewhat realistic, but you're not just dealing with people having a hard time all the time, right? So I'm bringing all this up because the end of the game also has levity, but the extent of the levity of you can't do anything anymore. There is going to be a point in the game where it gets so difficult and you get so many different calls that no matter what you do, you're going to lose more than you are going to protect, and the game's going to end. And that's the tipping point where you kind of learn that you're helpless. It is no longer in your control. The boulder is going down the hill. Right? You are Sisyphus trying to get this boulder up the hill. It is now going to go down the hill. It's already rolling. There's nothing you can do about it. And there is a release of stress in knowing that you are helpless against something. And this has been talked about in by a lot of people who are a lot smarter than I am. But it's why kaiju and eldritch horror and things of that nature are less scary and more awe-inspiring than they are, or like, oh, it's cool, than like, say, being threatened at knife point in an alley. Right? You reach a particular level of scale that people don't fully are able to grasp or comprehend, and because you're not able to fully grasp it, you're not able to properly process it, and you don't fear it anymore. If you like saw an eldritch being the size of the sun come and eat the earth, I think people will be, justifiably afraid to a certain degree, but I think a lot of people would just be like, well, it's like, what am I supposed to do to that? But when it's within your power to fight, if it's in your ability to survive, at least to within a certain range, that's when the fear really takes hit. Because after that, your body just kind of accepts it. And that's kind of what's happening here, in that there's nothing really you can do. It's done. And it's that's the... What the hell? Am I getting an ad? Why do I have an ad for Whole Foods in my OneDrive? What kind of post-apocalyptic... Anyway, I shouldn't say apocalyptic. What capitalist nightmare? I think it's really important to know what that feeling means and why we're trying to imbue that feeling in our player, right? And for me, I want people to have that moment of helplessness, because the lesson is that how dare I what? The idea is to learn that the helplessness is a life lesson, and knowing that you have done everything in your power despite it all. I still eat spinach in my shakes though, so don't you worry. Because like despite it all, you still tried your best. And to learn to accept, and I wouldn't go to the extent of love, but to accept that the effort put in to something, even if the outcome isn't what you wanted, has meaning and merit. But I guess the question is, how? How do we properly show people that even if you can't win the game, how do we show that actions have merit? And I think the key to that is what's going to be the biggest difference of a frustrating, boring game and an interesting, perspective-changing game. Which is what I want from this. I want people to come out of this of a different perspective than when they came in. So how would we change? How would we reward actions? And I don't just mean you saved this person. Like, I think that's one of the reasons why I loved recordings so much, because it does reward people to getting certain people to the end of the game. So then your meetings did have actions. Your actions did do something. I wonder if we could potentially do something that's akin to, like, maybe I'm misremembering it, but you know the story about what's that old guy's name? The Christmas story about an old guy gets visited by 3 ghosts of past, present, and future. Wasn't like a decent amount of them being like, oh, this is what things would have been like if you weren't around, kind of deal? Where it's like, oh, we show the impact. I have not played Garden of Banban. I watched Chibi Doki play Garden of Banban though. But what I think if we could potentially show, like, if you weren't here, how would it have been different? And I mean, I wouldn't go that far. I don't think it's that bad. I think genuine effort is put into it. Is it especially high tier? Not necessarily, but I think there's a charm in that. Granted, maybe there's some things that you know that I don't star, but Garden of Banban is just kind of one of those things where it's just like, it's a horror game that knows what it is and is going to keep on doing its thing. And if you like that kind of thing, you're going to enjoy it. If you don't, you won't. And enough people seem to enjoy it. Right? So it's just kind of like, yeah. Will I agree that it's like mid? Yeah. But it knows what it is. And there's respect in that. I wouldn't call it a cash grab though. Unless there are particular actions that I haven't seen yet that would kind of show otherwise, I haven't seen any of the kind of actions that would give signs that it's a cash grab. And usually by that, it's like excessive push for merch and things of that nature. Then I would probably say it's more of a cash grab. Or like an exceptionally high turnaround rate. Not even like, because I think it's only like once every 6 months to a year, maybe, which is not terribly high. If it was like every month, new, boom, 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 on phones, on everything, and then there's just ads everywhere, and then merch everywhere, then yes, I would agree with you. But I'm not seeing that. But yeah, no, I don't. I have a neutral / positive view of Ban, but I have not played it, and I don't think I will. It's just, I don't think it's the kind of game that I would like. So, $8 to $10, I think, is a decent price for a game like that. I think it's fine. I think I would pay closer to like $5, but like, it's fine. It's not, if it said like 20, if you said like $20, $30, I would have said, yeah, oh yeah, then never mind. But like 8 to 10 in games that are now going to be being like going closer towards $70, $80, $90 nowadays. Like, if you don't think the Nintendo cost spike up isn't going to make everybody else, you're crazy. Everything's going to go up. And honestly, it should. Now, if they do the price hike and then also keep microtransactions and all that, that's bull. But like, it's unfortunate that the cost of living hasn't also gotten out. So I think it just means that less people are gonna be able to play games, and or pirating is gonna skyrocket. That's my prediction. Oh, you're sick, silly? How come? What happened? You're not feeling well? Talking about well, just the game in general, and then got sidetracked by Garden of Banban. I feel like I'm gonna throw up. Yeah, that sounds like sick to me. Get some rest, drink some water, keep your electrolytes, and just sleep if you can do it, silly. Get some rest. I think that's what really separates a cold that lasts for 2 weeks and a cold that lasts for like 2 days. Is like proper rest and taking care of yourself when it first starts. Yeah, I mean, it makes sense that you got sick. Everyone's bringing their own germs in. I'm sorry though, it sucks, but be like very, very warm to burn out the sick. No. I mean, also, yes. Temperature sensitivity is a sign of a fever. For me, I can tell I'm about to get sick because the hot water in the shower feels really, really, really good. And I'm just like, oh, okay, I'm sick. I have a slight fever. So, but a fever does burn out, is one of the body's first and arguably most effective ways in killing stuff. My body stinks, so now when I get sick, I become an ice cube. Yeah. Like, if you're sensitive to cold and you want to warm yourself up, that is a sign of fever. So rest up, keep yourself as comfortable as you can. Just try not to make yourself too hot. If you keep yourself too warm, you'll pass out. It'll be bad for you. But like a good comfy blanket with like some water, some drink with like electrolytes. Yeah, definitely. If your fever gets too high, it does the same thing. You can get cooked from the inside. Yeah. So like, just beware of it. Why did you send your mom? I've never sent my mom any video. That has never been a thing that I've ever done. What were we talking about? We were talking about rewarding people to show that even though if they can't beat the game, their actions had impact. And part of the way that I was considering, or at least what I was considering to do, is show how your actions, like what would have been their fate if you hadn't done anything. If you weren't there, what would have happened? And I don't know how I feel about it. Mama Dodo, thanks for the pets, as always. Because, silly, what I'm trying to go through is like this horror game, for the most part, is gonna end with you being the last one alive. No matter what you do, no matter what actions you make, you're not getting through no one's getting through this night but you. And there's a learned helplessness in that, but I want people to take in that helplessness, to learn that there are some things in life that there's nothing you can do about it. It's not about you didn't try hard enough. It's not about you didn't do the right thing. You just can't do anything about this. And I want people to take that and learn that there is worth in effort, even if the end is impossible. There's worth in what you've put into it, even if the end result isn't what you wanted it to be. And I'm trying to figure out how to show that it had an impact without the ending changing, right? And that's one of the reasons why I loved Star's example last time. Granted, Star was trying to mention something else, but I kind of took it and ran with it. Where we now have recordings. We have last calls. And those recordings are given to the player of the person that you managed to get to the end of the game. And each one is different. Each one has a different character. Like, we're already moving towards a narrative of like every character has a narrative arc until the end. It's just you only hear one of them because they're the only ones who get to the end. But if you get another person to the end, you'll hear theirs. If you have another person to the end, you hear theirs. And then you have these recordings as a reward of like, hey, now you get to see more lore of what's happening and how these people interacted and who these people were. And that in itself, I think, is a good reward and good reason to keep playing the game, which is what we want to a certain degree. But I don't think it properly incentivizes, or it doesn't properly guide people into the feeling of, oh, I still had an impact. I mean, you did technically have an impact by getting this guy to the end, but there's a disconnect there a bit. I feel that there's still room. So what would the best way to go where it's like, sure, you couldn't save everyone. Sure, you couldn't save anyone. Thank you. Listen, you have to be a little insane. In today's world, you have to be a little crazy. Can you imagine being like actually sane and normal? Sounds boring. Sounds boring as hell. He wants to live life through that, man. I wouldn't. Listen, they also say that the line between insanity and brilliance is often negligible, and I haven't decided which one I'm at yet, so. But no, I don't really know. So we could go. So what the one we mentioned before, where we can show what would have happened to him if you weren't there. But that means we have to have like a predestined fate style kind of thing where everyone has a particular like route. But I wanted to avoid that. That's why we have a whole random thing, right? So the only other way to go about it is if the game pre-randomizes and pre-does stuff, and then we log that into the end of the game, and then as the character makes decisions, it alters it. Like it kind of like the player throws wrenches into the plan that the game has for everything. And then at the end of the game, you get to see of like how effective were your wrenches into the plan. But if we went that direction, it opens up a whole can of worms of like people cheating in the game by looking at the file. Because if you look at the file, well, even if you were to look at the file, because then you get to know which area was affected, which infected, which one wasn't. But as soon as you save a house, the file's useless. As soon as you do your first good thing in the game, you've completely changed it. So you could, I guess, as long as we didn't make a new file every single time somebody makes a decision, which would take up so much extra. Would take up so much extra. You can do it so it puts files into your files and puts voice recordings or videos in there. I mean, technically, that is something that is happening. Mostly because, like, the audio recordings of what's happening in the game have to come from somewhere, right? And they have to be pulled from somewhere. So technically the game files would have all the audio recordings and stuff in there. And we would have a quote-unquote history, right? Where people can go back and listen if they were to, like, suddenly leave, or if they forget, if they want to look back on something. They have the ability in the game to listen to that, which means there would have to be specific files in the game that allows us to do it. So technically, just from a logical sense, we're already doing that. And as long as the player knows where to go, they can also just do that. So done. Already done. But no, even that doesn't feel quite right. Because what would the results be? Right? Let's go for an example. Let's say we have a predetermined randomized decision tree of what things happen, right? To make this game not be able to be pirated, do like a jump scare saying that you should leave now. I don't anticipate putting any anti-piracy for the most part for the game. I plan to just properly localize the cost and depending on the cost, localize the language appropriately for every country that it is released in, so that, you know, people can actually afford the game in the places that they live. The name of this game is called Last Call, and it was originally because the name of the game is called Last Call because at the end of the game, when everyone is gone and the phones stopped ringing and you're the last one there, the phone rings one last time. And that's where the inspiration came from. But recently, we've been inspired by the idea that the game begins with a voicemail from the main character calling her mom, with it being her last call. And then part way through that voicemail, it cuts off and the game starts and you get to see what happened. And I love the setting of just like, oh, we're in this. And then you kind of like get that feeling of like, what happened? Why did they leave this why did they leave this message? What led up to this, right? And thank you for the compliment. I appreciate it. And it's a game that I've been working on since May of last year. Granted, we took like a 6-month break, but still, we've been on this for a while. And yeah, it's we haven't gone as far as I wanted it, but the point is yeah, we've been on this for a hot minute, and we only started picking this back up within the last couple months or so. And as far as what, and we plan on releasing this game a PC, and then we're also considering doing touchscreen, making this so that people actually could play this on their like tablets and stuff too, because this is one of those games that are much more like point and click interactions more than anything else. So hit him forehead, my hit glass what? Oh, a glass hit my forehead and it hurts. I'm sorry. No, this, I mean, one of the reasons why I'm doing this while live streaming, and is because of getting feedback from y'all, as far as like getting ideas, getting feedback as far as how things come off as a particular way. So feel free to give if you feel inclined to give your perspective on things, you are more than welcome to and free to do so. So just letting you know. Especially if it's situations like this where I'm not 100% sure how to paint this experience to help lead people in the direction that I would want them to go. To try to, at the very least, avoid the pit that is frustration and boredom, right? If it's too stressful, it's frustrating. If it's not stressful enough, it's boring. And sorry, if it's too stressful, it's frustrating. I think I said boring twice. And I'm just not sure. I'm just not sure as far as what feels right in showing that they make it. Well, let's think about this logically. Let's go through it step by step. That usually helps me come up with good ideas. So, players playing this game, they're making decisions throughout. They are either haven't played this game. They're in 3 camps. They've played this game before and they know what's going to happen. They've seen other people or know of this game before, so they know of this game. Or they have never played this game. So most cases, people are going to be playing this game, hopefully, if it's a good game, knowing that there isn't going to be, you're not going to win. You're not going to win this game. Or at the very least, there is no ending in which people live. It's a game about a battle of attrition. It's a game about lasting as long as you can, trying to make the best decisions that you can, and trying to save as many people as possible, with kind of a side thing of like getting specific people in the end. But I wanted, at least for the most part, the feeling and desire to get people to the end be less of a you get a reward, where it's much more tangible, and much more of a people fall in love with certain people. Like, I want certain people to identify with certain emergency personnel so that they don't send them on risky ventures. I want certain houses and people that live there that they're like, cool, we're gonna protect this house no matter what, and not take, like, if anything versus this house, I'm gonna choose that other thing. And so I want it to be much more rewarding, where it's a personal choice depending on one's own inner values and who they've bonded to, right? And so that was the original goal. Having a reward tied to it kind of like cheapens it a bit, but some people are just incentivized with like shiny pretty trophy that this would technically fall under. So I think you kind of need both. You need an external and internal drive to get people to do the things you want to do. An incentive through intrinsic and extrinsic values, right? I don't know. I'll keep thinking about it as we move to our second ad break of the day, and I will see y'all in 3 minutes. I feel like I'm asking the wrong question. I think that's part of it. I think the idea of, oh, how do I incentivize people, or how do I show people that what they did mattered? Does that cheapen it? Is the point to learn that what you did mattered by not showing anything? Do you need to come to that decision yourself? Because I don't want to fall under the trap. There's a particular narrative trap that unfortunately a lot of people fall into. And that narrative trap is like not respecting your readers or players enough. And it's very not great. But it's the idea that it's like, oh, they won't get this, so I'm going to spell it out for them. It's that kind of trap. And I don't think this is technically one of them. I think still rewarding them, or not even, I keep saying rewarding. I think maybe that's where my mental trap is. I think I'm stuck on incentivization, where I'm trying to incentivize people to do certain behaviors, but that's not this. This is not an incentive issue. This is a communication issue. How do we communicate that what you're doing matters, even if the end result is the same? I think... Okay, hold on. I'm kind of cooking a little bit. So, I'm going to make another one. This one will be called... Oh, no problem. I was more or less talking out loud. I know that's how people normally talk. I was just kind of talking. It wasn't anyone in particular. I was just kind of I was thinking out loud. That's a better way of putting it. I was thinking out loud. I'm trying to process. I'm trying to like figure out a solution. Okay. All right. As long as you're taking care of yourself, silly. That's all that matters. We'll name this one. What should the tab be? This will be support. Effort matters. Matters representation. God, that's so freaking nerdy. The representation of all the matters. Sorry. So problem. I want to have people learn that there's purpose in meaning behind putting in effort, even if it doesn't change the outcome. Because I think for a lot of people, it's a feeling of, if the outcome doesn't change, why can't we do something about it? Sorry, I kind of got hit mentally by my own biases here. As I say this issue, and then I think back to my personal belief system doesn't align with this. When I think about certain things that involves putting in effort even though it doesn't change anything, I don't believe there is purpose behind effort if it doesn't change something. You might as well not do anything. Then why the hell am I making this game? And I say it, and it leaves a bad taste in my mouth. So is that what I believe? Or is that what I think I believe? Excuse me, I'm having a moment. I'm having a moment where I'm questioning my own belief systems on a lot of things. If this is a lesson I want people to learn, is this also a lesson that I want to teach myself? Am I making a game to teach myself a lesson? The fuck? Wait a minute. Hold on. That doesn't... How can I do that? I don't know if I can. Can I do that? Can I still have the proper belief system if I make a thing that's convincing enough and I don't believe the thing that I'm trying to make other people believe in? The hell? Okay. I want to have people learn. Maybe, hold on. Maybe. Let's finish this train of thought before we go back to actually questioning the fundamentals of the entire thought process. So what I wanted to write down, and I was quote unquote cooking, was that the player will be shown that the effort was worth it by the positive responses from the NPCs that they tried to save. That's what I was thinking. Where it's like, you try to help them, and in their last moments, they thank you. But that's not always going to be the case. Other people will be begging not to die. Not very often do you get people that are just like, well, you tried, and then they just die. Right? Not a lot of people would fall into that umbrella. All right, that's the thing I wanted to write down. That's faulty. I want people to learn that there is purpose and meaning behind putting in effort, even if it doesn't change the outcome. Is that true? Is that the point? Well, I mean, the point... Let's go back. The point of the game is to... Because it is a game about a battle of attrition. It's about fighting against something that you have no ability to win over. And the learned issue. Can the mimics on Christmas be Mariah Carey? That's funny. I think I would get sued if I did that. By Mariah Carey. But that is funny. I mean, I imagine this. I'm gonna keep this game open to be modded, so people can mod to do whatever they want, really, for the most part. Because I want to have that feeling of helplessness. But because I want that feeling of helplessness, what lesson do I want them to have? What lesson is learned through fighting? Oh, so I know the lesson of there are some things in life that you can't fight. That's true. That is the lesson that I want to imbue, is that there are some things in this world that you can't fight. And you need to accept that there are something in this world that you can't fight. But I think it's the step after that that I get confused on. So what do you do? If you can't win, then what's the point? And I don't want the point of the game is to stop playing the game. Because that's what's kind of coming across right now, where it's just like, oh, so if the point of the game is like, oh, there's nothing you can do, it's like, then why would I play this game again? One, that's a bummer. Two, if there's nothing I can do, then I'm just not gonna interact with it. It's a non-factor. Which then, led to this problem, which is have people there see that there is a purpose behind efforts, even if it doesn't change the outcome. And I don't know. What other options are there as far as the end? When you learn that everything... there's nothing that you can do with this, then what is left? I think then I jumped to the idea of like people being like, well, we did our best, like that kind of mentality of like they were proud of what they were able to do, even if it didn't change anything, because then they at least did something. Because otherwise it feels like what the game wants from the player is to not play the game. in the sense of turtling. They don't save anyone. What's the point? If the point is that everything is pointless, then that's just nihilism, right? That's just, there's no point, so why bother? And that's not the lesson that I want to imbue in this. I don't want to imbue the idea that everything is pointless, because it's not. There's always a point. There's a point in learning and growing, even if the outcome didn't change the way you want it to change. I think I'm also self-inflicted. I am still conflicted. Self-conflicted is arbitrary. Not arbitrary. My brain is shortening. Don't mind me. Because on one hand, I do believe that even if the effort you put into something doesn't change the outcome, aka you try to learn to be a better artist, you draw, you're not a better artist. Or it's like you read to try to grow a skill, you do the skill, you're not any better, right? It's like the effort put into trying to make it better is still worth something. But then on the other end, I believe there are some things where it's like, if my effort does not do effective change in the thing that I want to change in any meaningful way, then I'd rather put my energy into something that is more effective than to put energy in it at all. Which may just be like a toxic trait I have. And it feels weird that they can exist at the same time. It's hypocritical in a way. Unless there's a way that it's technically different, because there are both of those examples are in different environments. They're different, not even perspectives, but like the conditions of each of those are different. The conditions of I'd rather things to be more effective is more about societal change, and the conditions of personal growth is one is personal and one is internal, one is external. Okay, maybe we're getting somewhere. Effort through external change, if not effective, to me feels useless. But effort through internal change is always worthwhile. Hey, Skistera, how are you doing? Maybe have something like a garden removed from the characters, which flourishes, grows when NPCs are helped. Okay, so like a visual representation of who you've helped, kind of way. Okay. Well, we are in a game, so that means visual representation is 1,000 times better than any kind of word of mouth kind of situation. So, aka, we're not going to write a letter, right? Maybe it unlocks like lore character info as well. Well, we have kind of touched that with recordings in this extent that by getting certain people to the end, you get like you get a recording. The recording could be their personal recording. It could be additional lore from going, like anything that happened after the game or before the game. Like you could really kind of, I really love this idea, but I feel like it falls short of painting the picture of your effort matters. But I like where your head's at as far as visual representation. But I'm not really sure. What. Because when I think about the change that you do as a player, maybe that's where I'm having issue here. Is the idea of the change that you do, they all die in the end. So what change is it that you're actually doing? And I think that is where maybe I'm hitting my head against. That's the wall. Because if at the end it's just you helped them versus not help them, you get to visual representation of that. It's, did you? Right? If in the end their fate was the same, then did you actually help them? Right? True. Maybe some of the emotional weight comes from the writing as well, so the representation doesn't have to be all the heavy lifting. True. I have considered the idea, well, I mean, like this one here where it's like the player gets like the way that the NPC reacts to your help helps been like, hey, I know you're just trying. Yeah, Mama Dodo is some costumes blink, some don't, but this one definitely does. But like so they would still die, but the narrative would change. It would be different than if you were to just leave them be. So I guess I'm trying to picture as far as if you try to help somebody out and try to make their situation better, and then their situation kind of did, but just in a different way, is that a positive thing? I'm kind of arguing like, not really. So if your help isn't changing things in a positive way, I mean, so, like some of them they do live a little longer. They do survive a little more. You give them the materials and means, or that you give them the opportunity to get their own materials and means to try to defend themselves until they aren't able to anymore, right? How thankful, like passing in peace is better than passing alone and freaked out? What type of thing? I don't know. This is a good question you're asking. And these are good. You're bringing up very good points as well, Skistera. There's something to be said about different kinds of deaths. I don't believe you, Star. In that dying afraid by these things mimicking the people that you love is a very different kind of death than you saving them and then, things are happening and then maybe it's much more of a slow, peaceful thing where they're just like, hey, do you mind if I stay on the phone until I stop talking, kind of thing. There's some peace in that. And I guess also a follow-up question is, do we want that for every one of them? Probably not, right? If every single person was thankful when they died, not everyone's going to be thankful. A lot of people are going to be scared. And a lot of ways of you trying to help people, I don't think are actually going to make it better. Because I think as as equally possible you make the situation better in the sense of you get to save them from a painful death to a peaceful one, so too is it possible that the opposite is true. They were going to die from an ambush immediately and not feel anything, but now they're being hunted. Now they are afraid and they're running. And they are just not wanting to die. And you caused that. Does the lesson here be not all help is good? Is that the lesson I want to imbue in the people that play? I think that's an important lesson, but I don't think that's the lesson I want to imbue here. Good ending / bad ending type per NPC. Maybe. If we make it too as wonderful, as good as that would be, as cool as that would be, I also have to make sure that we're not stepping into feature creep situations. Because if we go through and then have to make each person also then have good ending, bad endings under certain conditions, we are getting into levels of complex decision tree kind of situations. And with the amount of people that we're dealing with, it's just, it would be way too much. But at the same time, we could, theoretically speaking, go into the idea of like, well, depending on where they would end, it would be a good or bad thing. And maybe we have it programmed that if it's bad, they react this way. If it's good, then they'll react this way. And it's less specific and more general. So then when things happen, it's just labeled as like, oh, if they die in this place, if they die here, it's just run bad code parentheses bad or run parentheses good. And then the value changes the behavior. Okay. So let's at least type it down where it was like, so each person, depending on where they die, will have a positive or negative reaction to that situation. The situation is determined. All right. Well, thank you for your input. That has helped me broken through the wall a little bit. I appreciate it. Enjoy lurking. And the situation is to determine. No, the situation is determined to be good or bad by a arbitrary quality of good and bad, which would run a specific response. One thing that I was also considering as we were talking about this to kind of help make this better, because I'm a little hesitant. What if we make it AI? What if we make it so that the situations that happen are fed into an AI? They already have predetermined parameters of what the AI is, what person they are. And then as the game goes on and decisions are made, and the final things happen, and the last call that they give to the 911 operator happens, the AI clicks, and you get what it considers the last thing that it would say. And then it could be parametered of like good or bad, etc. Potential AI for understanding the situation without depending on handwritten decision trees. Difficult to say. But how? We should also write down preload what the game would have been like if the player didn't do anything, and then show the player how different they made the situation for the better, even though they didn't beat the mimics. And like, the idea that I have behind that is like, these people would have been tricked by the mimic and ambushed in their bathrooms and letting their neighbor in, and like all these different kind of like little things that would have been narratively like what would have happened if you didn't step forward, and how things would have like how the dominoes would have fallen if you didn't start moving them around. And then you get to see like, oh, yours, let's say like John, right? Instead of John dying, being tricked by a mimic thinking that his wife came home early, John died defending his family after getting weapons and boarding up the house. He went down fighting. Is that better? I think so. I think there's merit in giving people a chance. And that's what you did. You gave them a chance. And that's all you can really ask for. Especially as a 911 operator. Like, you try to help and do what you can, but the best you can do is give people a chance to come back from this, what this is, whatever the experience, the negative situation that they're in, you give them a shot. I don't know. It's difficult, though. This is a difficult question. Because not only is it an important question in this particular context, it's also just a good question for life in general. So if it was an easy answer, I think a lot of problems would have been solved in life as well. How do you... Well, maybe the answer lies with the idea of how do you cope with people that you couldn't help? Let me Google it. Let's see. All right. Emergency operators. How do you cope with Oh, did I scare the guinea pig? Sorry, we're talking about pretty serious stuff, so maybe that's why. How do you cope with not saving someone? How do you cope? Let's just do cope with death. Yeah, apparently I'm getting like positive coping mechanisms include working out and finding ways to discharge the stress. Let's see here. I'm talking about, so I've hit a wall. It's about, here, I'll kind of give a little bit of a display here. So it's a discussion about how do we show people that effort matters even when it doesn't change the outcome, right? Like how do we show that their efforts made an impact even if the end doesn't change? So now, I mean, we've gone from like having visual representations of people that you've helped to having influence where they die, as far as, right, but like everyone's gonna die. If everyone's gonna die, and also not everyone's gonna be happy that you helped. That's just not how people work. Not everyone's gonna end the phone call with a 911 operator saying, "Oh, thank God you're here. I'm gonna go die peacefully now." But like, so like a part of that is some of them would be grateful as they die in a much better way of dying as previously would have been, which would be of fear and of trickery. Efficacy kind of thing, and hard to show in a hopeless situation. Yeah. Right. Which is why I'm hoping to see if maybe some insight from people of who are trying to like properly deal with the people on the other side not making it. How have people gone, like, properly processed it as a way of finding a good way to show the player that it still mattered? Not going insane because at least they did the right thing. Right. But what I'm trying to avoid is the end of the game is you're going to be the last one, and no matter what you do, the ending is going to happen. Like, the purpose of the game is making it as long as possible, helping as many people as possible in the best way that you're able to go about doing it, right? But there's a trap there where people can fall into where they're like, oh, then if it doesn't then nothing what I do matters. If the ending doesn't change, it doesn't matter what I do, and they're just never going to play the game again because it doesn't matter. And I want to avoid, as much as I can, that kind of response of, oh, if I can't change the ending, then my effort doesn't matter. And I don't want that to be the lesson of the game. So finding a way of representing that properly is where I'm currently stuck. And that's difficult, as you can imagine. Let's see here. Our side doesn't handle it well. We hide it. It's private. It's intimate. It's truly sacred. It's an absolute privilege for us to be invited to share it. Huh. I'm reading things through. The reason I'm not sharing it is because this is very personal stories. I mean, it is on Reddit, but I don't know, man. It feels a little wrong live streaming people's personal stories and moments. But it's discussing about like how someone is struggling with someone dying on the phone, and they're asking people around how other people have dealt with it. And one response, or at least the top response, is kind of like flipping the script a bit, where it's a privilege to be with someone in their last moments, and that like death is such a private, personal, intimate, special moment that to be part of that should be not seen as a negative but a positive. You were there for them when maybe no one else was. But also there's a part of this is that are different if you do the right job, a lot worse if you have poor performance. It changes the reaction still. Yeah, that's kind of what we tickled on, where it's like, depending on like at what point did they die, it would be like a positive or negative thing, right? But I guess my question is, am I worrying too much about it? Am I demeaning or belittling the growth of my player? Should this Okay, are we okay? Are we good? All right. Can you hear me, Dragon? Okay. Good. No, my OBS disconnected for whatever reason. I don't know why. Because so I guess my question, in your personal opinion, Dragon, should the decision based on how people feel about being in a not unavoidable, but like a battle of attrition, not going to see the light of day Okay. Alright, I should be back now. I don't know for how long. We may drop again. Yeah. Where did I lose you? No. No, OBS is being... Twitch and OBS are not... Yeah, sorry. Hold on, it may not be over. I might have to full reset my computer. And... Okay. I guess not. I don't know what's going on. I really, really don't. So where did I lose you, Dragon? You want me to repeat the whole thing? And Star, you can also chime in too. Apparently I paused the stream as soon as you got back. That's annoying. That is, yeah. It's... Okay, so, what I want your opinion on is... Yeah, I'm going to repeat the whole thing. Should, in regards with the player, we are going to swear to God, if I am not connected now, I'm gonna crash out. You haven't seen a dodo crash out before. I'm about to tell you that much. Damn. Let me in. Let me in. Let me in. Let me in. Go. I'm gonna storm over to Xfinity. They don't know what hit them. I'm gonna make the Zelda chicken fiasco look like a petting zoo. Do y'all hear me? Hello? Do y'all see me? Can y'all understand me now? Am I connected? Hey, Salty, if you can hear me. Can y'all see me? If not, refresh. Maybe? Perhaps? Yay? Nay? Okay. Egg. Alright. Can y'all see and or hear me now? Okay. I think I have a modem issue. I think that's the problem. I think my modem is like dying. Hi Salty, thanks for joining us. It seems you're a friend of Dragons? Well, a friend of Dragon is a friend of mine, so welcome. I am, well, you chose a awkward time. I tried to ask a very important question twice, and that's when, my modem has decided to kick the bucket. So here we are. Yeah, so, hi. We are not in the same room. That's actually really funny. That's very amusing. But welcome regardless. In case you're wondering, I am a dodo in a onesie duck costume because of rubber duck debugging, which is a process in which coders talk to rubber ducks to figure out issues. So I figured it would be the best case forward to solve any game issues we may have in game dev today. Hey. Imagine getting more viewers after technical difficulties. Listen, Scuff brings people in, alright? Hopefully all positive. maybe not. But good. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. But I believe, Dragon, you didn't hear my second or third attempt trying to ask this question to everybody. And Salty, you're more than welcome to put in your 2 cents as well, though you may be a little confused, so I apologize. But the question that I was trying to ask in particular, let's see if I can actually remember it at this point, because it's been a roller coaster. Okay. In the perspective of the person playing this game, which is going to be a battle of attrition in trying to save as many people as possible and eventually failing until you are the last person left, no matter what you do, is it better as a game designer for us to try to imbue a sense of how we want people to take from that experience? Or is it better for us to leave that completely up to the player without trying to influence their perspective in the slightest, even if it means that perspective isn't what we want them to be able to feeling. Like being frustrated and bored and feel like it's helpless and there's no point in playing the game anymore, right? From your perspective, not on my end, Star. I looked. You mess with me, Star. Don't mess with me. I'll time you out, boy. I'll time you out. Not really, but you did make me look. Similar to like stealing my houseplant again, which was an hilarious situation, but yeah. But yeah, that's the question. Should it be influenced or should it not be influenced? Even if the not influenced means potentially harming our game in the long run, imbuing people with the wrong idea of what the game is about and what lessons to learn from it. Or should we trust that they will come to their own conclusion, and the point is for them to come to their own conclusion? Because there's a difference between lazy writing, where you just don't, it's just like one thing led to another kind of writing, you know what I mean? Or is it better to, guide? Or to purposely, is it two thoughts merged together? There's one thing where it's lazy writing, where you don't say anything because you just don't want to talk about it, and then there's another where it's purposely not talking about it to give the player, the reader, the person experiencing the experience the freedom to learn their own lessons from that experience in every possible way. On one hand, I kinda want to do more of a hands-off approach, but I'm worried that that's a naive approach. Do I have too much faith in people to assume that people just won't immediately give up? That people won't just be like, oh, this is awful, because it's there's no point. I want to avoid, if that's the most likely scenario, without at least some form of hand-holding, then I would like to avoid that. But it's kind of similar to like environmental design, with there's always a light pointing in the correct direction, right? Because you need to help guide people through a 3D space, even if it's a little bit under the surface. Or is this one of those? Part of me is saying that it shouldn't have everyone die, but the correct answer is, but could be a reward for good performance. Well, okay, then what happens? Let's explore that idea. Let's explore the idea that not everyone dies. Okay. Then what does happen? Because the current narrative is you are the last one, and then the phone rings. So, in the sense that not everyone dies, the ones that live, what happens to them? Do they just drive away? And if that's the case, why doesn't everyone just drive away? Right? Do they run through the woods to safety? How in the world did they make it through? Or maybe we go into the perspective of they run off and you don't know if they lived. We could do an ambiguous answer where it's just like, maybe they lived, maybe they didn't. You don't know until we decide to paint the picture accordingly later down the road. On one hand, I see what your point though, in the sense that some people should live. Your might not be revealed, but they might try to come together against the mimics. But doesn't that defeat the purpose of having... Doesn't that defeat the purpose of having an answer? Or needing to show that your efforts have good things? Because if the efforts change the ending, which in this case, if they live, it has, then you don't need to show them that your effort has meaning, because your effort changed the ending. The meaning is that the ending was changed. The meaning that I'm trying to imbue is that regardless of what is done, the ending won't change. But I want to show that there is worth in that. There's worth in effort, even if the ending doesn't change. There's a point of having hope in hopelessness. And it won't always be because it always ends up being okay. Because in life, sometimes it's not. Sometimes people die. Sometimes things get worse. And there needs to be one of life's lessons is knowing that there is purpose and worth in still trying in a hopeless situation. When things aren't as you feel like they should be, there is still worth in still trying. Because if you change the ending, all it really showed was like, oh, what you did was enough. I see it as less of a compromise, right? Still kind of dancing back to keep your own moral compass in a hopeless situation. I mean, that definitely does play. Well, I think the game kind of switches gears a bit. If we go down the realm of some people live, the game becomes less of a battle of attrition you're going to lose, and much more of a moral implication. Who do you decide to live? How can you, like, it almost like a, for a lack of a better word, God simulator. Like, who do you decide to live and who to die as a 911 operator? Which has its own merit and has its own what's the word I'm looking like? I like it. I like the idea of it, but I'm not convinced that's the kind of game I want to make. Do I want to make a game that is much more about deciding who to save? Or am I making a game about trying to do your best in a hopeless situation? Because in the end, that's what it is. It is also, you make decisions based on your moral compass. You still make decisions based on how you feel about specific people in the game, as well as landmarks that may have a greater consequence if lost. If you have to choose between your favorite character and opening the floodgates so that multiple houses could be taken over potentially, do you sacrifice your favorite character for the greater good? Those decisions are still very much in this game, but in the grand the grand scope of things, both will be taken eventually. But I like the perspective of, are we sure that's the kind of game that we want to make? Are we sure we want to make a game that is completely hopeless? Or do we want more of a moral compass, who do we save kind of deal? And to be 100% honest, I don't really know. There's a little bit of column A, a little column B already in the game. There's a little bit of a moral compass decisions in the game, and much more heavily slated for hopeless. But in the inverse, in what is being suggested, it would still be a hopeless situation. It's just you can only save a few people. You just won't be able to save everyone. I guess a true defeat, true winning situation is that you get to save everyone as long as you make the right decisions, and that's 100% not what I want to make. So what is being argued here has more to do with, do we want to go full helplessness or mostly helplessness? Are you like, do you want to go full? I don't know about that. I don't know about full. Is that a game that people would want to play? Is that something that people would want to experience? But I guess I have to decide what kind of game I want people to play. And is it even a game at that point? Do I want a full helplessness would be more interesting? Okay. I think so too. And I think I'm leaning on, I don't think I can avoid people just giving up as soon as they see that there's no point. I know that there's one, like, I considered having like a leaderboard. The people that managed to last the longest in the game. Right? So that way it still shows like, oh, there's still a bit of a competition there in that way. So there's still kind of like a game to it versus a narrative device. Which, you know, games can be narrative devices, but a game should still be in of itself a game. And this game is a resource management horror game, in a way. The resources being emergency personnel. And it's just a determining if the person on the other end of the phone is real or not. A puzzle. An audio puzzle, but a puzzle nonetheless. Of a bad or good, a red button or a green button, and that's all that really is. At some point in the narrative, the ending will be more sour, seeing all despair and not seeing the slight turn of events. It is. You're right. There is a point in the game, which is one of the most important points of the game, in which you are not able to keep up. The calls come in too quickly. The decisions come too quickly. And the ball starts rolling. And you no longer can control it. And there is a feeling of helplessness with that. But is also a source of levity in the sense that it is no longer under your control. But it also means that you don't need to fear it anymore. You don't need to worry about saving people anymore. And there is a levity in that. As dark as that may be, it's true. And that point would be something that we would speed up, of course. I don't want people playing the game for too much longer once they reach that point, but that's the point where the phones keep ringing as the player has accepted their fate, and then the phone stops. And it's silent. As every phone, there's no one left to call. And then it rings one last time. That's the point. That's the end results, is that moment. But the question is, can we make that moment one where people can grow from it? What can be learned from that? Because if it's sad for the sake of being sad, then there's really no point, and I'd rather not. So the lesson here that I've chosen is kind of like my thing I want to drive forward, is that even though that is the end of the moment, what was important wasn't the end. What was important were the little victories along the way, the people that you helped, and the decisions that you've had to make that made you question your own morality. I want at the end of the game you see things differently. Not be bored or frustrated, but just understand that there is purpose behind it. Because having pure helplessness in the first with the second being slight hope could work. As far as I'm aware, the only thing that I considered with this game is, well, I mean, there is a little bit of hope in the sense that the game ends and also implies that the main character lives. The main character lives because one of the... Oh, hold on. I need to open the Excel again. Can't imagine why it got closed. Oops. Hold on. I'll open it for you. Where are you? I'm so sorry. On recordings. One of the cassette is the investigator interrogating the main character of where the bodies of the towns were located, because they couldn't find any of the bodies left. Like, the implication is that the main character was still chosen as the target for these mimics, in that the next place that she goes to, it will happen again. And I didn't have any plans to like make it a whole nother big thing, because to be frank, I'm just trying to focus on getting this to be a big thing. But the only other story that goes along with this is the demo of this game. The demo of this game is the hospital, is a small town short distance away where she was in the hospital for, and when she left, these things attacked. And everyone dies in that demo. In that demo, no one survives. But you get a feeling of what it is that they are and how they function, and if this is a game that you will enjoy playing. So, is there hope? I guess my question is, in what context? Hope that you could beat the mimic? That you can fight them off forever? Or hope that they won't ever show up again? I think that third one has some merit, because the lore implication is that these things have always been here. They are the reason why there is such an overlap, at least in the United States, between those who have been abducted and those of the cave systems that exist. They've always been here, taking advantage of humans' social interactions and desire to help people in need. It's just suddenly they have, for whatever reason, because it was not explained, have kind of dialed it up to 11 and started going a bit on the offensive this time. So, I mean, we could go down the route of they've had their fill and now they go back to their caves. We could go down the route of supernatural influence, where Someone did something they shouldn't have, and now they've been cursed. There's a lot of ways that we can take it. None of which I've really made a decision on, necessarily. But I guess I'm not sure if hopeless is the right word. Because, or if it is, maybe I've missed my mark. I want it to feel helpless, not hopeless. Which I guess one feeds into the other, but I want it to feel like there's nothing you can do. Which I guess would be hopeless, I suppose. I wonder if there's a huge difference between those two. Now that I think about it, I'm like, well, wait a minute. On one hand, we have the recordings. The recordings will allow people, give people an incentive to do it again, to get different people to the end. What I want people to feel as far as a reason to play the game again is to try to get different people as far into it as they can. That's what I kind of want. I want people to fall in love with certain people and try to take them to the end as much as they can. Or hate certain people and make sure they die first. I plan to have people that they don't that are meant not to be liked, but not over the top. I'm not adding someone who kicks puppies. You know what I mean? I'm adding somebody who just gets on people's nerves for different reasons. And I want, like, we want to stay in the gray, you know? People will pull the line for different people. That's what I want. I hate Frank because he takes advantage of the elderly. I don't know. That's also a pretty bad one. I don't know if I would add that. But you know, like where it's just like something that some people would be against and some people wouldn't be against. And I mean, we've also talked before about the idea of, or one character in particular that ends up having like almost a cult-ish following or obsession over these things, and will purposely sabotage houses so they can eat in exchange for sparing their own life. They will go around and like sabotage other people, right? And that kind of like interesting interaction aspect to it. So a lot of little mini stories within this game, in each gameplay, are those moments where you have relationships between NPCs and how they would react under certain situations. And if possible, what I want is the ability to allow these narratives to come about under specific circumstances. So, like, this person will become a cultist only if they survive long enough to get to that point, right? Or if the one pair of these houses go but the other one survives, something else will happen, right? Where it's like, I want to take advantage of the randomness of the spread to make it that, depending on the direction of it, will paint a different overarching narrative that doesn't depend on a decision tree to make happen. It's just circumstantial. No, you're fine. You're absolutely fine, Dragon. Hope you're having fun. But the idea overall. I think I'm going to move forward with the plan of I'm going to trust that people come up with their own decisions and perspectives of a hopeless situation. And by focusing more on smaller narratives that come about due to how things come about. By that I mean if you save, like, the smaller narratives that I'm sprinkling in are conditional. They're if these people last long enough, if these people die early, if this is taken over, then this is taken over, then this narrative happens. Like little things that are conditional that may or may not happen. So then the random spread would then be different every time. But it is also influenced by the player. It is influenced by the player being able to save certain people or save different certain spots that would have otherwise been lost and taken care of. So you're able to shape the narrative in a way as long as it's within your control, at least while it is still within your control. Because I guess another way of putting this is that it's not helpless or hopeless the whole time. The ending is the same regardless, but the same thing could be said with, you know, anything. There's death for everyone, right? Oh, and tell your friend I said thank you. You're welcome to spend some channel points to change the avatar to different things if you want to show off. If not, that's absolutely fine. Hello, Dragon's friend. Hopefully you're having a wonderful day. We're having deep conversations about death. You know, the usual. You don't become a Paleomancer's dodo without having some certain decisions about death. But I think that's the way I kind of want to go about it. Decision. Decision is, regardless if the ending is hopeless, as it will always end the same, similar to real life. By that I mean, like, we all are gonna die one day. There's nothing you can do to save that, but that still doesn't change how we go about each day, right? Regardless if the ending is hopeless, the player will be given agency in the decisions leading up to that point, thus influencing the overall narrative. In particular, the smaller narratives that are conditional will either be influenced, will be influenced by both the randomness of the spread and the decisions of the player. So since the player is able to have agency before the ending, they are not always helpless nor hopeless. You can only hear through closed captions? Really? That's funny. That's odd, but you know, we had plenty of issues all day today, so you know, why not add that to the bucket? hopefully you understand me for the most part, at least. I'm glad that you are enjoying the closed captions. Can't say too many people turn them on, but I want that available for people who aren't able to hear me. Oh, good big stretch. Oh. All right. I feel a little better making a decision with this. Basically, we're going to... What's the lore of the game? The lore of the game is that you are a 911 operator, and you just came back from a hospital for being in an accident. Upon coming back to your town, you have been getting calls from around the town of emergency personnel until eventually you realize that there are these mimics pretending to be people. What they do is that they stalk people, ambush kill them, replace them, and try to trick you, the 911 operator, or nearby neighbors to get help. And by sending help and being unprepared, they are then killed, and then the cycle continues until finally they choose a new target, like the Mandela Catalog. Kind of, yes. Mandela Catalog is definitely inspired by Mandela Catalog, which, by the way, the fact that you know it, props, love it. Love Mandela Catalog. But instead of visual stretching that they kind of physically mimic, it's audio only, essentially. This town is slowly being taken over by these mimics. You, the player, have to decide whether the person on the other end is a human or not, and if they're not human, send the police accordingly to deal with them, and then if anyone who is still human can be saved, are saved, right? And then slowly this town gets more and more taken over by these mimics until eventually you are the last one left. No, not your internet. But that's pretty much the gist of it as far as the lore. As far as the accident that the main character has gone through, that hasn't been specified yet. And the demo will have the town where she was hospitalized being attacked first. It will be a much smaller town near the mountains. Do we know about the mimics on the call? Like, how do we ignore the mimics? Well, one, you identify the mimics so you can send additional personnel to then face off against it. You are essentially pushing back the mimics and less ignoring the mimics. And the operator does not know what mimics are. These are people... No. Any way you can refresh? No, the operator does not know that these things, as far as anyone is reacting to these things, no one knows what these things are. I am potentially going to make it that some people know in the demo what these things are. And they kind of give some impressions and some additional information from that perspective as well. But as far as the main story, no one knows what these things are. For the most part, people are going to assume that these are cultists that are breaking into people's houses and trying to, like, with a voice changer, convince and then kill, like, policemen and stuff to come to their house, and less of this is a monster in the woods, which is, more of an accurate statement. But I want the impression of these things to be more like Wendigo, Skinwalker, that kind of vibe, where it's like these things that have always been here tricking people through, why you don't answer a whistle in the Appalachian Mountains. What if the operator's last word is them crying mama? That was one of my ideas that I had at one point, where the final call is them speaking through the phone. or you hear something walk up behind you, the player, and then like almost like whisper in your ear, like the crying sound of a child. That has been something that I've explored before. I'm not necessarily against it, but I'm not 100% on board with it anymore. But like, I do want those kinds of moments where you hear their past victims from their own mouths. Like, you hear their last words from the mouths of these monsters. Which is an also interesting topic as well. Just being like, because we already have the last call thing going on, right? Which is the last moments of each people and what they say to people that they, for the people that they love, right? Because there's also like a question. And this is something that I considered for like a lack of better taste advertising, which is a challenge to people being like, if you had one call before you died, who would you call and what would you say? And that kind of mentality of that, because it seems to be becoming more and more prevalent as we're kind of like really breaking this game down to its like the good parts. That seems to be playing more and more of a factor of like these, what do last moments look like? And it's kind of interesting from the perspective of mimics, because mimics in of itself are a storage of people's last moments in their own right. One of my favorite things that I've seen, not relatively recently, but it was it was the Fiddlesticks remake from League of Legends, where apparently he like speaks the last moments before of the people that he kills, and there was like a whole different like voice lines that he had for all the different people that he had killed and what they said at the last moment. And was it Mandela Catalog, or maybe it was another analog horror where there was the masked face, where it, like, as it was walking around in the house, it was switching between voices, and you could hear like a child saying like, "Look, Mom, a monster," and then like you could hear just stomping, not even stomping, but heavy footsteps walking around the house. You know, things like that is kind of what I really want to imbue in the feeling of what these things are. And I don't want to give any impression of what these things look like, right? Because I want people to come up with their own ideas what these things do. I want to know how variable they think it is. Do they imagine them being tall or lanky or skinny? Are we going full modern? Are we going skinwalker? What are we going for it? How's my idea for tieflings? If I remember correctly, your tiefling idea was about... Actually, remind me what they were. I mean, I can look it up, but just a genuine curiosity. I remember thinking that it was a pretty decent idea. I don't remember any feeling of like, oh, no, that's a bad idea. That's what you're asking. But no, these... I think we've come up with a good decision here. Regardless if the ending is hopeless. Oh, it's the idea of like the mini narratives. That's what I was kind of getting at with the stream on. Well, at least I got good rest. Well, I'm glad you got a good rest, Star. Welcome back to the waking world. Oh yeah, Extremophiles. I like that idea. I mean, it would make sense that they would be, right? They would have adapted to their environment in a positive way. No, that checks out. I thought that was a good way of putting things forward. And plus, you could play with that, right? And then you could also go with the idea of like, oh, they are all of them extremophiles, or is it most of them? Is there variables? Is there a spectrum of extremophileness, and does that allow a preference for certain things, right? But I think the way of doing this correctly, in making sure that people feel that even though it's hopeless, there's still a lot that can be done in the meantime, is not perfecting, but putting a lot of effort into making sure those mini narratives are well put together and variable enough where we don't want it so it's like, oh, you get like 10 mini narratives for one playthrough. It's like, no. We're talking like a couple to living in a volcano. Yeah, exactly. I think that's pretty interesting, Alice. But I was thinking like maybe three mini narratives happening per run through, and we have like 20 or something, and it's like different story beats where it happens at certain times, where it's just kind of like, okay, cool, around this time it will check what has been lost, what has been gained, what options are available, and it will just randomly choose of what is available to what's going to happen. And it could be anywhere between, let's see here. Gosh, we're gonna make another another tab. Mini narratives. Actually, you know what? Let us delete this. I already have a narrative one. Scripts. There we go. Mini narratives. Mini narratives are little narrative interactions that involve specific people when specific situations are met, or specific conditions are met. So like the cult guy, the cultist, like actually going around and causing more likelihood of other people's houses being taken over if certain things happen. So like if it's like, oh, if this person is still alive by this point but they saw their neighbor get taken out, then they fear for their lives and are willing to do what they need in order to survive, and then things move forward that way. So this is where things get interesting in the sense of depth, because you have a dual factor randomness happening. So you have like this. Let me just go ahead and actually open it up. Right? You have this. Join the insane pressure could be a fun way to develop the character to not be a simple goody two-shoes. Exactly. Yeah, it's... Well, what do you mean? Let me fully understand what you mean. As far as the mini narrative stuff, or are you talking about the cult guy that I mentioned previously? But no, the idea here, they'll add like an incredible amount of depth, or no, it was the double randomness. That's what I was talking about, because you have the randomness of this, right? You have this going down randomly into different situations in different directions, but the player adds a bit of order to it. They add it so they can be like, cool, it goes to this house, this house, this house. That's the direction it would have gone. It is up to you to then make the correct decision and it doesn't go this way. So you can influence the end technically to a degree and be like, okay, no, I'm going to save this person, this person, this person. So a person who is just starting is going to save every single person as much as they can. Saying cult. That is, it does misspell sometimes. But but a more advanced player will let certain houses be taken over and then defend others so they can get specific endings, so they can get specific narratives. Now they're not just playing the game in the sense of a morality simulator. They are now playing the game to manipulate the narrative so they can get what they want. And there is that kind of availability of growth, I think, is healthy for a game like this. It allows a kind of repetition and it shows room of mastery, right? Of like, oh, okay, so I know that the cult, I want a cult ending leading into the school, everyone coming together and defending the school, and then we all have a drink at the pub, for example. So it's like, cool, then that means I know that I need to have this house be taken over that's next to the cultist, but make sure the cultist is okay. Then I need to make sure that all of both the park and this is open so that the people will start rallying at the school. Like little things where it's just like, if you know how the things are going to interact with each other, you can manipulate it to get the way you can shape the narrative as you desire, as long as you have the skills necessary to make the right decision. It's cool defending it, then going to the hub. Oh gosh. I mean, it's certainly a moment in the game. But that's kind of the point, is like, this game is about those mini narratives, and then they break through. Or do we want to shape it so they don't break through? Should the game not be about hopeless endings and be much more of a shaping of these mini narratives in unique and interesting ways? That's actually difficult to say, because I've pretty much been shutting down any other idea besides everyone dies, right? But a game about having 3 of like a lot of different mini narratives that could happen based on your decisions as well as random chance, thus like, it's like, cool, they might all die, but maybe that's just a part of an ending of a handful of them, that if they go in that direction, then everyone would die. When the town be evacuated because of this happening? Because of the fact that this is such a small town in a rural area, communication was almost made minute. They're not able to reach out. It's either they weren't able to reach out with communication devices, or it was we sent an SOS to the nearest nearby big city, and they never arrive in time. What is the point of calling operators if everyone dies anyway? Are you... Because they want... the people don't know that they're going to die anyway. They don't know. They want and need help, so they're gonna call. But it's not like the people in the town are like, well, we're all gonna die. They don't break the fourth wall. They don't break the fourth wall of the game and be like, wait a minute, this game developer wants us all to die. you're gonna call to try to get help, and the 911 operator most likely will send help. Hopefully, if they have the resources. Of how the player needs to find a way to differentiate mimics, but not the operator. Okay. Maybe I've confused you as far as what I considered the separateness. Well, so the player is playing the operator. I apologize if I wasn't clear with this before. You are in this chair at this computer making these decisions. Did I end up answering it incorrectly previously? Whereas, like, I made it sound like they were completely different. Basically, this is still a character that you are playing with, like, lore and background, etc. But you are very much first person controlling the operator. You are making the decision of listening to this phone call and then sending the appropriate people out. It is still very much your decision. You in this simulation, Star. You are so obsessed with this game being a simulation, I swear. Next game development. Can there be a fishing minigame? I have considered having like a pinball style minigame on the computer, because this is based on like late 90s, early 2000s. So, like, just really old school games that are just on every computer and just have that available. Like, maybe even Pong or something. I have considered that. Excellent. We're not coding, we are updating the models for the game. One of the things we talked about previously was, like, because back here, granted, we didn't put the models in, but we'll have we'll be able to see their computers in the background here, and a couple times I want you to see them playing Doom or something. Like, just very much not doing their job, because I think that shit's funny. But also, Star, definitely not model updates. That's after we have so much more to do before we update the graphics of this game. We haven't even done the phone call situations or the decision tree in deciding how we're going to decide on the person on the other end of the phone call and make sure that it all plays well with itself. Once we get all of that down and make sure the game plays well and interacts well with itself, then we can make it look pretty. I would even argue that we would want to make it sound pretty before look pretty. Because if we make it look pretty, that it could influence our decision of how things feel. Right? You want it to be just a bunch of blocks and squares in the beginning. And then once everything is exactly the way you want it, then make it look nice. You got to make sure the core is good. Or, it's a problem. But yeah, no. I honestly forgot what I was talking about. And yeah, the Easter dodo. I didn't keep the other two in there. Sorry, Dragon. As of right now, it's just the dodo. I guess if we absolutely have to, I can add, I can vote which one you want, if you want the Easter dodo, bunny, or dragon. But for now, it is duck. Or not duck, dodo. You actually need to play Canito Pet. Yeah, Billy, Timmy, and Bugsy. I was actually really proud of that thumbnail that I made for that VOD that came out today. Of that. It was good. I'm not going to have fun trying to get all those little 1 minute piece. I'm probably gonna skip all those 1 minute segments of me trying to start my damn stream in the middle of that. My God. But all right, I think we have hit the end of it. Do y'all have any questions or any other things like that before we call it for today? I feel like we didn't make a lot of progress, but I think it's because a lot of our time was spent really just trying to figure out the best way of deciding on the experience of the game in of itself, and that's really important. So I'm not gonna fault me on that too much. Oh yeah, no, I'm planning on putting streamer mode on it. Don't you worry. All right. Well, if there is nothing, then I will thank you all for joining me here today. It was wonderful having you. As always, y'all have, helped me get through the mental walls of designing and making sure that the experience feels good. And thank you as always for the feedback, for all the little bits of it. So I hope you all have a wonderful day, a wonderful evening, and hopefully Saturday I won't have, issues with my internet. Still, but, I need to be careful in general. So I will see y'all Saturday with more Look Outside. So have a good week, everybody. See ya. Bye-bye.